Hi, I want to welcome everybody to the We Are USAHS Library, where we're getting a closer look at some of our library colleagues who are your partners here at the University of St. Augustine for Health Sciences Library. Today we have Matthew Chase, and we are going to get to know all about him. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Esther. How's it going?
Good. I have a couple of questions for you. So whenever you're ready, I'm going to start off by asking you if you will please describe your job for us.
Oh, yeah. Where do I begin with that? I'm essentially the San Marcos campus librarian. So essentially what that means is I effectively manage the library at San Marcos campus. And that comes with a few different, dimensions and aspects to it. One of which is probably the most obvious for students and faculty is managing the resources that we have there. And by that, I'm referring to like bone models and textbooks and adaptive equipment such as wheelchairs, crutches, anything of that kind. And, whatever is needed by students and faculty, I will try to see if we can get it for them and see if it's able to be checked out to students for their supplemental learning. And then I also assist students one-on-one basis, essentially, when it comes to their research. So in that sense, I provide a lot of assistance with tips and tricks to searching the literature, using our databases, resources, and so on. And the same even goes to faculty as well. And one of the things I always like to highlight to faculty is that I can go one step further and provide a more comprehensive search of the literature for them, in supporting their own research efforts. And then the last thing too is being embedded in some of the courses for the curriculum, in particular the evidence-informed practice courses. So students and faculty will probably see me in those from time to time presenting about the library and how they can maximize their usage of it.
Fantastic. Wow. A lot in there. Now, that's what you're doing now. What were you doing then? My next question for you kind of takes us back in time. How did you get started working in libraries?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of, I would say it's probably a traditional career path as well as kind of, in a way, non-traditional in the sense of how I came to work in libraries. So while I was in college, actually working on my first master's in sociology, I actually was doing a couple jobs in a public library and then later on in the academic library, mainly working as for, checking out books to students or other patrons or, troubleshooting computer issues and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was always a strange thing for me to be in such a customer service or front end kind of service area for me because I'm naturally more introverted and everything like that, but it really kind of allowed me to connect with people and get to know what they needed and to identify that and figure out what's the best possible solution to get to what they need. And so while I was doing my academic background in sociology, I came to fall in love with library sciences. And so I started to work in libraries and attend my master's in library and information sciences. And actually my first full-time job was at USAHS, in particular as a circulation manager for the San Marcos campus before, moving up into the librarian role.
That's incredible. Wow. You're right. That really is a journey. Some of it's expected and some of it just, non-traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since people think that librarians read all day, which we both know is not true.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I wish that were the case, but.
Since you wish that were the case, when you do come home from working at the library, what are you reading right now?
Oh, that's a good question, and it has multiple answers. Mainly because I'm one of those people that can't seem to dedicate my entire time to one particular book. From beginning to end, I tend to have like 4 different types of books, even sometimes as much as 6 books open at different times. Mainly because to me, it's like how I treat music and how I treat movies and any other type of media is that I like to jump around into different genres, different worlds, different kind of perspectives on things. And I usually don't like to stick to one in particular. Sometimes I want to move into a different type of world or a different type of perspective about something. And but yeah, currently I'm reading a couple different books. Is one of the ones I just started reading is the Mothman Prophecies by John Keel. Yeah. So that is a pretty interesting book because for me, it's essentially about UFOs and like conspiracy theories. And it takes this like very like nonfiction documentary / detective story in a way of discovering about the Mothman, this like unknown being, and the other phenomena that's happening around this like small town. And yeah, it's a really fascinating look, and it kind of gets to my kind of like, personal interest in the unknown and the strange and the weird. I also just finished another book. It's called The Ballad of Black Tom. And essentially that's a kind of a retelling of, if anyone's familiar with like H.P. Lovecraft, 1930s like weird fiction author. It was basically like a reimagining of one of those stories, and in particular telling from the perspective of a black man in like 1950s Harlem. And yeah, it's a really fascinating book of talking about the realities of the time as well as kind of the more magical and mysterious elements that kind of happen around there. So, but yeah, so those are kind of the couple different types of books that I've been kind of reading. I like to balance between like fiction and nonfiction. Yeah.
I'm writing down those titles,
Yeah.
especially that second book. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, it is. I definitely recommend it.
That's fantastic. Well, you seem to take unexpected paths sometimes. So this might be a good question for you. What is one thing people would be surprised to learn about you, Matthew?
Yeah. Yeah, I would require a deeper think if I were to actually try to think about what is surprising about me. But probably the one thing I can immediately think of, and it actually kind of surprised me, especially, with full quarantining and like staying at home and everything like that, is I did develop a strange knack for baking, which is very surprising on my end because I'm not normally a hobbyist cook, or even like I probably wouldn't even say I'm like that much of a decent cook, but I've been learning. But baking, for some reason, I'm actually doing fairly all right. For example, I had been making some pretty technical desserts in terms of like sweet potato pie. I've made cheese souffle as well as a chocolate souffle. And even quite recently, I actually made my first batch of macarons, which, I always know those are like super difficult to make. And yeah, the stories are true about that. But they actually came out pretty all right, actually.
Which one are you going to make again of the ones you listed?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. The souffles are always like a go-to. I definitely recommend if you want to try something that's like challenging but really tasty in the end, I would definitely recommend the souffle. Chocolate souffle is probably arguably a little easier. I don't know about that, but a little bit. But if the next one I actually have planned is either to do sticky toffee pudding, and it's mainly because I've been inspired by watching Gordon Ramsay recently. And yeah, or these really delicious desserts that I haven't had in years. It was Hong Kong style egg tarts are actually something I want to look into making.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, I used to love those so much, but I never can find them, especially now. So I figured I'll try making them.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Well, on the theme of things people don't necessarily know, what do you think is a hidden gem? What do you think? Consider a
Ooh,
hidden gem of the library. It could
yeah,
be a resource, a service, anything.
totally. Yeah, I feel like that's, half my job is like providing like, like here's this like hidden gem about the library that no one quite knew about, or maybe they kind of missed out on like an advertisement that we had. But probably one of the more recent ones that I like to highlight a lot, and is our virtual events in particular. I don't think a lot of students or faculty are aware, especially now that we were doing, quarantining, and like, even though now the library is reopening in checkout services, we're still providing a lot of really useful webinar style and even other types of programming through our library website. For example, I've actually been doing, or I plan on doing in the fall, is doing some like Librarian live events, and essentially that would be kind of like going like a live stream of me doing a literature search. And so that way people can kind of hop in and like, they can talk about, their own literature search experiences, and kind of create that more informal type of space. And that's still about learning and about socializing, especially, nowadays. But yeah, and then we also offer a lot of more instructive type of programming on like open access and systematic bias in literature searching, or anti-racist research as well. But yeah, and then we also have some a little bit more de-stressing kind of oriented, like mental health and just health and well-being type of programming with like mindfulness. And I even know we offered one about like a karaoke party or Netflix watches and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely. So I definitely recommend people check them out.
That's a full spectrum, from deep research to
Mhm.
wellness to just plain old fun.
Yeah, a whole variety.
Well, since you mentioned quarantining, it's
Mhm.
a perfect segue.
Oh, it is.
Our last question is, what is your tip for working from home?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. And, I know a lot of people will probably say about like, maintaining self-care, which is super important, and everything like that. And, taking breaks from the computer and like setting up routines. For me, like, especially because like, especially with this time, is that I've actually, even though I still enjoy, working with students and faculty in person, I've actually quite learned how to enjoy working from home as well, for different reasons. And I think there's a lot of things that we talk about, like take a break from working from home and stuff like that. But I think also there are some benefits to it that I think we can kind of lean into. Whether it's about like the fact that we don't have to commute to work for right now, or to school, and so we don't have to face like morning traffic. So maybe we can enjoy a little bit about that, extra time that we have to do, whether it's to prep a good breakfast to start out the day or anything like that, or just to meditate or be mindful, or just be otherwise productive in some other form. Or one of my other favorites is that I can actually turn up the music a bit, while I'm working on some stuff, and not have to worry about disturbing anyone, especially, when we were in the library, obviously for obvious reasons. But so, so there's some benefits to it that I think, sometimes we may not, fully be recognizing, especially with, if there's like feelings of burnout and stuff like that. I think there could be a new way of like re-perceiving or reframing some of the aspects to working from home, and really see them as like positives.
I love that. That is so true. I know that that's one of the focuses for the university,
Mhm.
is to embrace, the life work balance.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's another important dimension, is maintaining that, because I can understand, and especially for me, that's a common thing, is like trying to find the opportunity to disconnect myself, like, from my work and stuff like that. Because unfortunately, our homes have now become our office spaces, our workspaces. And I can understand that it's hard to sometimes disassociate, especially when you have like a deadline or a priority that well, I'm here, I might as well work on it. It's like, no, you gotta take time for yourself and recognize that, you got tomorrow, you got later. I think that's the important thing, especially for your mental health and just general well-being. Yeah, totally good point.
Thank you, Matthew. We really learned so much about you, and I feel like we're just going to keep connecting with you through the Ask a Librarian chat, through the comments hopefully we get, and,
Oh, yeah,
thank
totally.
you. You've really given us so much.
No, thank you for inviting me on this. It's a great experience, and kind of provides a face to us, for people to know us and to recognize us and say, hey, I know you.
Good point.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you. And signing off for the We Are USAHS Library, this is Esther Garcia.